See if you can hear a difference in these statements. Humans are insects devouring one another on a little atom of mud. The human race is just a chemical scum on a moderate-sized planet orbiting around a very average star in the outer suburb of one among a billion galaxies. Looking back, humanity will turn out to be just a ripple within the cosmic data flow. And finally, oh, you mysterious galaxies, I see you, I calculate you, I understand you, I study you, and I discover you. I penetrate you, and I gather you. From you I take light and make it knowledge. I take movement and make it wisdom. I take sparkling colors and make them poetry. I take you stars in my hands, and trembling in the oneness of my being, I raise you above yourselves and offer you in prayer to the Creator, that through me alone you stars can worship. Could you hear a difference? The statements come respectively from Voltaire, an illustrious 18th century French philosopher, the famous Stephen Hawking, a 21st century English theoretical physicist and cosmologist, Yuval Harari, a 21st century Israeli historian, and Enrico Medi, a 20th century Italian astrophysicist, all obviously intellectuals, all atheists, except for the last man, whose cause for beatification has begun. The light of a world created by God and shining in a special way in human beings comes through so clearly in the believer. Even in the exalted way, he understands his work. In the writings of unbelievers, life feels dark and heavy and even hopeless or meaningless, doesn't it? This of itself isn't proof of God, but it does appear as an indication of believing in him being a brighter way to live, and quite likely a better way to respect the dignity of human beings and the whole of creation. Faith can take science into account. There is no conflict, situating science within a much broader worldview, which gives rise to wisdom, to seeing individual things in light of the whole. That corresponds to our heart's desire to know not just what or how, but why. Pope Benedict wrote that all kinds of factors could have combined to generate the idea that the language of the star contained a message of hope, but none of this would have prompted people to set off on a journey unless they were people of inner unrest, people of hope, people on the lookout for the true star of salvation. The men of whom Matthew speaks were not just astronomers. They were wise. They represent the inner dynamic of religion toward self-transcendence, which involves a search for truth, a search for the true God. And when the star, the true star of salvation is found, its light dawns a little more on the darkness of this world. This is the sense of our first reading from Isaiah. Rise up in splendor, Jerusalem. Your light has come. The glory of the Lord shines upon you. See, darkness covers the earth and thick clouds cover the peoples, but upon you the Lord shines, and over you appears his glory. Nations shall walk by your light, and kings by your shining radiance. This mission isn't confined to the beatified few. It's also meant for you. Today's liturgy for Epiphany points this out, especially in some of the rubrics, the rules, or directions regarding the gospel. I didn't know this until I did some background reading in the Old Mass, the ancient Latin Mass. Directions indicated that when the priest or the deacon reads that the Magi saw the child with Mary and prostrated themselves and did him homage, everyone in the church was to kneel down, prostrating or falling down in homage or worship. Isn't that interesting? The directions for the priest or the deacon, actually for all of you, as the priest or deacon read that, was to kneel down during the gospel, being identified with the Magi as you fell to your knees. You're not just listeners or observers, but participants. Now, the offertory builds on this, well, before the pandemic, when we could bring gifts forward. Do you remember that? When we actually brought gifts forward, the offertory builds on that rubric of the gospel. We join the Magi in bringing forward our kingly gifts. And like them, we represent the Gentiles, the kings of the earth, all the nations coming to pay homage to the divine King as the musician chants this prophecy. But the gifts of the Magi give way to that which they foreshadowed. As an old commentary put it, the church's sacrificial offering is more precious than gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What do we offer? We offer Christ himself and us along with him. Our offering is Christ mirrored in our hearts in the gold-like purity of the love that attends our worship. Our offering is Christ's sacrifice like frankincense, incense, lit on fire and burning. Our offering is Christ received at the sacrificial banquet and penetrating our inmost soul like aromatic myrrh penetrates our sense of smell. At communion, we have come with the Magi to the goal of our journey. The star that once shone on high shines now within our hearts, and having found the Lord, we worship him. And after that, well, we return to our own country, but by another way, since no one who is enlightened by Christ returns home the same way as they came. If you encounter Christ, you are changed and you leave in a different way. Christians, you have been enlightened by Christ. Fulfill your mission, believe, and brighten the world.